Squier has introduced new Paranormal guitars for 2023. We're going to take a look at 4 of the new electrics, so stick around. How's it going, y'all? This is Cooper Greenberg here at Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, comment, do all that stuff, and check out our website to learn more about the Paranormal series. But I'm going to tell you about 4 of the new guitars today. You know, Squier does this every once in a while, and Squier and Fender, they put out these cool guitars that are kind of amalgamations and weird takes on different things that people like. We've seen some very cool ones in the past, baritones, 12 strings, offsets, all kinds of weird stuff, but I think they did some pretty cool things for this year, one of which being the first that I'm going to talk about, the Paranormal Jazzmaster XII, or XII, if you're into the Roman numerals. Right here, I have the Jazzmaster 12 string. This is an Olympic white, and this is coincidentally the one that I'm holding. It's my favorite of the bunch. I think this is the one that will catch the most eyes, that will, I think the big thing with 12 strings is everybody wants one, but nobody wants to invest like it's their main guitar. Everybody wants one as kind of an auxiliary thing, recording, playing a few songs in a show with a 12 string. And there are some people that have, you know, done everything on a 12 string, and that's totally fine. But I think for most players out there, you might be playing some Fender stuff, and if you go for one of their custom shop 12 strings, or even in the acoustic world, you're looking at Martin, Gibson, Taylor 12 strings, they often get very expensive. And that's where the Paranormal series comes in, I think, in the exact right kind of price range for something like this. This one goes for $449. All the rest that I'm going to show you are $429 or $449. But I think in that sub $500 range, you get a quality instrument with, you know, that's easy to play, but kind of has a weirder kind of addition to a collection instead of, you know, one of your main guitars that might cost 3-4 times as much as this. So this guy, very comfortable for a 12 string, pretty slim neck. It's a nice C shape, 9.5 inch radius on this, 25.5 inch scale. I've got Olympic white, but they also have a Lake Placid blue, which we have in stock currently. Like I said, I think these are probably going to be the most popular, so check with us in terms of our current stock. But without further ado, let's hear the 12 string. I think it sounds really nice with these kind of Jazzmaster style pickups. Not quite P90s, but you know, it's got the single coil jangly tone that you want out of a 12 string. Really pick up all the high, chimey kind of sparkle of the 12 strings. So here you go, Paranormal Jazzmaster 12. All right, So the next one on the list on the new Squier Paranormal series will be this, the Esquire Deluxe. Everybody knows the Esquire is an early iteration of the Telecaster. It had one pickup in the bridge, and the Deluxe, you know, if we're thinking 1970s Telecasters, the Telecaster Deluxe adds the humbuckers, so this kind of combines the two. You have the Esquire Deluxe, one pickup in the bridge, and it is a humbucker. This is a wide range humbucker that was designed by Fender with Squier. It's not going to be your American Vintage 2 Cuneife reissue fancy pants humbucker, but it will give you the same kind of vibe. It's wide range, thick sounding, very cool. And you will notice this kind of chicken head knob going on up here because you don't have any switching to go back and forth between two pickups. This will be volume and tone. But this knob up here is a three-way little rotary switch. If it's closest to me right now, it is coil split, so you do have a single coil tone out of this if you want it. If you go to the next middle position, it is the full-on humbucker, and with both of these, your volume and tone are in play. If you go all the way down, it is bypassing both of these, just pure humbucker tone. So if you're just trying to rock and roll, you don't want to mess around with volume and tone, throw into that third position, you got a full-on rock and roll humbucker. This one is in this kind of nice mystic black, I think is what they call it. It's kind of a metallic black, and it definitely plays into that, you know, 70s vibe while still having a little bit of a kind of modern touch with the metallic. There's also a mocha finish, also something from the 70s, which I think is cool. And I will say that not often on Squiers do we see this, but this one has a pretty sweet flamed neck, vintage style tuners, 70s style headstock, and it's cool. It's definitely not necessarily a one-trick pony, but it's like a 1.5 trick pony. And for people that are trying to rock and roll, you're playing garage rock music, it's probably a good call in the Paranormal series. This one's $429. Again, pretty nice price for something that would maybe not be somebody's main guitar, but add something else to the collection. I think it's cool. Let's take a listen. All right, so next up, we've got something that will definitely hurt your eyeballs the first time you look at it. Everybody knows about the Nashville Telecaster, but what about a Nashville Stratocaster? And what about a custom Nashville Stratocaster? Custom coming from this double bound kind of play on the custom telly. But when it comes to a Nashville Telecaster, if you're not familiar, it is a 3-pickup Telecaster. Telecaster body, but it adds in this middle Strat pickup. Gives you a few more kind of options in terms of tone. And it's Nashville Strat because it's kind of a secret weapon of Nashville session players who've got one telly that they're bringing with them to all their sessions. They need as many options to kind of fit a song as possible. So much like a Strat, this is a 5-way switch down here, going from the neck to the bridge. And you have those in-between kind of stratty tones, which everybody loves. You also have this push-pull knob in the tone that will add in the neck pickup into positions 1 and 2. So a lot like the switching that we see in you know, the Player Pluses, in the Ultras, you know, the American Pros. That is kind of the most popular, I think, way to add extra switching onto a Stratocaster. There used to be all these different kind of in phase, out of phase, and it just got way too complicated. So I like that it's your one thing that you can bring into here is getting all 3 pickups or just the outside pickups, whether you're in position 1 or 2 with that push-pull. So yeah, it's a very cool guitar. It's got a nice look to it. This is an Aztec Gold, but they do have chocolate 2-color sunburst. That is the same finish as the Jason Isbell Telecaster. So if that's something that you're into, we will have that one as well. I like the Aztec Gold, and I also like it because the Fire Mist Gold Custom Tele in the JV series is one of my favorite guitars that came out last year. So I kind of like the gold double bound look. This is definitely something that looks wild. It's a lot more paranormal looking than the other 2 that I've already shown you, but it's got some good tones in it. It's going to do all your favorite Nashville Tele sounds, which you could argue those are Strat sounds, but it is kind of a mix between the 2 with the bridge and the neck pickup. And I think it's cool, and I think that a lot of people that are playing maybe in country bands, or you're doing variety stuff, you're doing session work, you want to get something that's a little weird to stand out on stage, if that's your thing, but still have a lot of different options. This is a nice way to get more into the Nashville kind of realm, instead of going into maybe a Player Plus or something like that. So, custom Nashville Strat, take a look. All right, and finally, this is the last one that I have to show you. There is one other addition to the Paranormal series before we get into this one. That is the Rascal HH bass, and we don't have it yet. And you all know, if you watch the channel, that I'm not the best bass player in the world, but we can show that one to you at a different time when it comes in. It's a cool little bass, but this is the Strat-O-Sonic. And again, something that might kind of freak your eyes out to look at the first time. You got the kind of P90 style soap bar pickups in there. You do have 3-way switch on this guy, 3-way toggle for the neck, both, and bridge. But you also do have some interesting switching options on this one. So while this one may look the simplest out of all of the 3, I mean, yeah, the Esquire, it's pretty straightforward. But this one looks like a pretty simple guitar. Kind of got a little bit of a Jazzmaster-y look, even though we all know Jazzmaster pickups and P90s are different. You do have this switching capability, which will be series and parallel in the middle. So you can, on your volume knob, you pull it out and you go from running in parallel to running in series, so you get a little bit of thicker tone. And then you also have the in and out of phase. And I just mentioned with the Nashville Stratocaster, that's a little too much for me. I'm not the craziest on all kinds of switching in and out of phase, but this is pretty simple if you think about it. You got 2 pickups, you can go in series or parallel, or you can go in or out of phase. And this does make it kind of a nice jack of all trades guitar that can get you a bunch of different sounds, which I think is cool. This is in vintage blonde. It is also available in a crimson red transparent. I'm a fan of, as John behind the camera said, guitars that look like butter. And I think you just take a nice hot slab of this thing and spread it all over your tone. The tone roll, you know what I'm saying? So let's take a listen to this guy. I think it's got a nice warm kind of rounded tone from those P90 style pickups. And here you go, Strat-O-Sonic. So there you have it. There's a little bit on the Strat-O-Sonic and the other three. We got the Jazzmaster XII, the Esquire Deluxe, and the custom Nashville Stratocaster. One other thing about this that kind of flew under the radar for me, this is a slightly shorter scale than the others, and it is also a slightly flatter radius. So this is a 12-inch radius. The others we're working with 9.5. But I think that's kind of cool. It makes it a little easier to play. You can get a little more into it. It does squish everything together a little bit more, but that's not too big of a deal, you know. So I think for somebody that might be smaller stature, this would be kind of a cool one. But yeah, I think that Squier, you know, they have the classic vibe. They have the affinities. They have their $90,000 40th anniversary guitars. We'll talk about that at a different time. But I think this is, I've said it before with the previous Paranormal releases, this is kind of the sweet spot for me with Squier. Make stuff that kind of experiments, that doesn't take itself too seriously, and get it at a price point that's not super insane. I do think you can get just a normal Stratocaster or an S-style guitar for $429, which this one is, that would be a great Strat and be a straightforward Stratocaster and be much more classic and OG-minded. But for $429 or $449 for the 12-string, I think that these are a pretty good deal, and just gives you something different than the typical offerings from Squier. So I want to hear in the comments which you prefer, which you like best. I think for me, obviously, it's the 12-string, just because it had a really, one thing with Squier, sometimes with the pickups, they leave a little bit to be desired. I think all these sounded pretty good, but the pickups in the Jazzmaster for me were the most kind of really interesting, kind of bold sound, versus usually Squier Jazzmaster pickups, they're kind of dead, and that's totally fine because that's, and some people like them, it doesn't matter. But I think those pickups sounded the best of all of them. And if I were to buy one, it'd probably be the Jazzmaster. But I think that all of these kind of have a certain type of player that would probably get into them. And if you want to learn more about them, feel free to reach out to us. Come by the store, visit us online at alamomusic.com. You can read all the in-depth specs and see what we currently have in stock. These aren't necessarily limited, but we did get kind of our initial run, and we will get more if we need to. So if we're out of something, just let us know if you want it, and we can order you one. But we have a pretty good little initial chunk of all these if you are interested. But thank you guys very much for watching, and we will see you next time.